Welcome to Pixel per Pixel, a show in which I break apart a game into separate categories and review them accordingly. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the top-down action shooter game, Hotline Miami. So sit down and relax as I review one of my favorite games of 2012. Don't worry, there's no spoilers for the game's story in this video, so if you haven't played it yet, maybe this video will convince you to pick it up and give it a go. The three categories I've broken the game down into are presentation, gameplay, and finally story. Now, with all the introductions out of the way, let's get into the presentation aspect. Starting off with the graphics, Hotline Miami has a really neat looking 16-bit pixel kind of graphics, which I think looks great personally. It's really bright and a colorful game with tons of personality behind it. It's an old looking game that looks fantastic and won't age for a long time. The art style and tone in this game is one of my absolute favorites in gaming. The bright Miami Nights kind of vibe that I get from this game really helps to emphasize the beauty and sleaze of this world perfectly. Everything from the carpets to the in-game text is eye candy, and I love every single pixel of it. To top it off, I think the soundtrack is fantastic and really adds to this game's kick-ass and heart-pounding gameplay. The booming club songs you hear while mowing down enemies really is ecstasy, and I still find myself listening to the soundtrack to this day. I guess the only thing I could say was wrong with this is that I wish the enemies were a little more varied. It can get pretty tiring, to be fair, to constantly look at the same design of enemies every single level, but honestly it doesn't affect this game that much simply because of how awesome the rest of the game is presented. Hotline Miami's awesome presentation really goes hand in hand with its kick-ass gameplay. Hotline Miami's gameplay is probably one of its strongest selling points to me. It's fast-paced, intense, and gruesome as hell. You'll go level to level taking down enemies with a vast arsenal of weapons. That's not all though, because there are unique masks that you can collect throughout the game that can further spice up the game. My personal favorite, Tony, is a tiger mask that makes fist attacks one-hit kills. It just adds an element of awesomeness and allows for tons of variety for every playthrough. In the first Hotline Miami, there's around 30 masks to find, and some can only be acquired through subsequent playthroughs and really exploring the levels, as well as completing challenges or achieving high scores at the end of every level. Speaking of which, at the end of every level, the game rates your performance. At first, you'll be rewarded for playing it safe, but later on it'll say you're being too textbook and start giving you lower scores. This is a pretty hit or miss feature for me, honestly. On the one hand, I love that the game makes you change up your style a bit, but on the other hand, I can see why this would be annoying for gamers who like their playstyle and don't want to change it, and they want to play their game their own way. Some drawbacks to the gameplay of this game could be that I honestly feel that sometimes the AI in this game has inhuman reactions to you, giving you less than a millisecond to react, and deaths can feel really cheap sometimes. I don't know, maybe I'm just salty, but I swear, sometimes they react a little too fast. There's also a stealth section of this game that I do not think was done very well. And I get that it was important to the story and all that, but I felt like it really slowed the game down. It was really out of place, and it was honestly boring and tensionless. Easily a level I could do without. But overall, I have to say that the gameplay is blood pumping and fantastic overall, and definitely the best part of this game. Speaking of a narrative, Hotline Miami presents a story that's interesting, to say the least. The main character, nicknamed Jacket, starts receiving strange phone calls about barbershop appointments and such that send him into a bloodthirsty rage. After murdering gangsters for a while, things start getting really weird, and it's up to you to figure out who exactly is behind all these phone calls and just what the hell is going on. I'm simplifying the story because 1, I don't want to spoil anything, and 2, it's really something that you have to experience for yourself. The story presented is passable, but improves significantly once you get all the details and context given to you. It's truly a surreal experience, to say the least. Now, I don't really have any complaints, because the one that I do have is that there's not a lot of context given to this game's story. You don't really find out many of the characters' names or most of their motivations, but honestly, I'd be wrong if I said that wasn't a good thing. Truth is, we don't always get answers to our questions, and this game seems pretty keen on keeping a lot of things a secret. Because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter anyways, and that's a pretty big theme in Hotline Miami, is that nothing matters. But if you must know the ins and outs of the Hotline Miami story and the grand details, then there's a fantastic video by SquatchGamingOfficial that I'll link below. Overall, the story of Hotline Miami can be written off as weird and kind of pretentious honestly at first, but I think that with the proper context and attention paid to it, it can be fantastic and brilliantly told. Hotline Miami is one of those games that demands you play it at least once in your life. Its adrenaline-pumping gameplay and kick-ass soundtrack and art design, backed by an incredibly trippy story, is just an experience. Oftentimes, you'll find yourself in total awe at the wonderful chaos that you're creating. It's one of my favorite games of all time and an easy recommendation from me. Thanks for watching this pixel per pixel review. If you like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and like and subscribe. If you have any recommendations for games for me to review, you can go ahead and leave a comment. Any comments or criticisms are greatly appreciated, and they really go towards helping me grow with this channel. I really appreciate you if you subscribe, and hell, even if you just sit and watch and you enjoy my content, that's awesome too. Thank you and have a wonderful day.